the line with us is Randi Weingarten, our friend, the president of the American Federation of Teachers. AFT.org is the website. AFT Union on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. R. Weingarten also. Randi, welcome back. You've got a really cool announcement. It's National Teacher Appreciation Week, and you are giving away some books. Tell us about it.
So first, Tom, let me just say I love your book club, and I just loved listening to you reading. And that's part of what we're doing. Reading opens the world. Reading cultivates minds. Reading sparks imagination. Reading and literacy is the fundamental first that we need to do for our kids. So, reading to kids, reading to adults. But what we're doing is more of that same. And to enjoy reading, to enable reading for young people, for families, you need to have books. And so what we did a few years ago with an entity called First Book is we started distributing books to kids and to families. But what we learned is how important it was. So this became a priority of our union. And on Saturday, we will celebrate the distribution of 10 million books.
Wow.
10 million books by 700 local AFT chapters, our nurse chapters, our teacher chapters, our public employee chapters, our higher ed chapters, our bus driver chapters. 700 chapters in 41 states and 4 territories have distributed over 10 million books to kids and their families. And to honor that, we are distributing 150,000 books this Saturday in New York City, in Texas, in Illinois, in Ohio, and in Florida, because reading opens the world. It sparks the imagination. It does what we need to do to help kids have hope and confidence, because when they can read well, they can learn well, and they can navigate the world well. And so as others ban books, we're giving them out diverse titles, books that kids love, books that parents want their kids to have. That's what we're doing this Saturday.
That's absolutely marvelous, Randi. Randi, as you well know, back in 1980, David Koch ran for vice president on a platform of ending all public schools in America.
Right.
And now we've seen, I believe, 3 Republican-controlled states that have put into place, maybe 2, statewide vouchers for all systems, which are clearly designed to destroy public education in this country. What in your mind is the state of public education right now, and how can we best combat this?
So, number one, you're totally right, and it's intentional. It's not just what David Koch said then, but Betsy DeVos and her acolytes have been open and obvious. The same people who now are saying defund the Ivy League and get rid of, honest history. They've said that to create universal voucher programs, you need to create universal public school distrust. Christopher Rufo said some words to that effect at Hillsdale College, which is the college that Betsy DeVos has invested mightily into. So it's intentional. And so what I would say to you is right after COVID, right after schools opened all throughout the country, after the pandemic, there was lots of anxiety and lots of a sense of fear. And they exploited that fear, just like they're pretty good at. I'm not talking about parents who were fearful. I'm talking about the extremist exploitation of this fear, and used it in these states like Iowa and Arizona and other states to create these universal voucher programs, to do book banning, to do the other kind of cultural war stuff, getting rid of honest history, things like that. But what's happened in the last year is that parents, and this is Teacher Appreciation Week, parents see the fundamental nature of who their kids' teachers are. And last November, 80% of the races that we were involved in, pro-public education candidates won against these extremists.
That's great.
And what we see in poll after poll is that it's not like things are perfect. I mean, we need to strengthen public education. We need to do much more in terms of meeting issues around loneliness and learning loss and literacy. We want more experiential learning. We want more wraparound services. I'm not saying that things are perfect, but what public education is, it is how we help all kids have the opportunity to thrive. And there's no other way to do that. And in poll after poll, and like when you say, if the only choices you have is public education or privatization or vouchers or things like that, it's like 70-30, 80-20 split that says, no, I want our public schools funded. So I think that we are on the march to help kids. Nobody's going to be satisfied unless every single child thrives. And that's our job. And this week, every school I've been in, I've watched the schools and parents and communities basically say thank you to teachers. It's just been an unbelievable week of connection between parents and teachers this week in America.
Yeah. Well, I would say without teachers, you don't have a society. You don't have a functioning government. You don't have a functioning business. You've got nothing. I mean,
teachers help every other profession operate.
Well, arguably they create every other profession.
Exactly right.
You don't have educated people, you don't have a profession.
Right. But, look, there's a bunch of people, you know this, Tom, better than I do. There's a bunch of people who are afraid of knowledge. Yeah. And what they do is they impose their fears and their divisiveness on everyone. It's kind of like what they do about diversity. Diversity is our strength. Yeah. We can be different in so many different ways, but why be fearful of knowledge? Why be fearful of critical thinking? Why be fearful of understanding the struggles in America? Because then you can see the success of America.
Yeah, so well said. Randi, down in Louisiana, I did this story a little earlier in the program, the Gideons, the people who put Bibles in hotels, starting in 2009, they came out with this new Book of Life, which is basically Bible verses annotated for children. And this one particular school district, Leslie Moore Elementary in Rapid Parish, Pineville, Louisiana, they're passing these books out, and a big piece of the book is about how God hates you if you have sex before marriage and stuff like that. And they're literally giving them to third graders, second and third graders. How serious a challenge is this encroachment of religion, and not just religion, I mean, a fundamentalist, hardcore right-wing religion into our public school system?
So look, just like with vouchers, you're having this huge debate, which seems to ignore some of the constitutional precepts that we have. I mean, so let me just say, like with vouchers, what we're seeing in those schools, it's basically wealthy parents who are taking the vouchers, but they are defunding the schools.
Right, it's a subsidy for the upper middle class, basically.
Exactly right. Or the not only the upper middle class, but of the real wealthy class. Yeah. And what we're also seeing in terms of vouchers is that a bunch of these schools raise their, like in Iowa, they raise their tuitions. So, so the vouchers are not going for families that can't afford it. So, but I would say in terms of this, we have for over 100 years, remember the Scopes trial, remember the fight about evolution over 100 years ago. When there is crisis in America, there is constantly a debate about ideas. And what I am, as many of your listeners probably know, I am proudly Jewish, married to a rabbi, try to go to services every Friday night, I lean into my spirituality. But I really believe in the separation of church and state. And in some ways, because of that separation of church and state, and that enables the free exercise of religion, in America, we've had more people go to church or go to synagogue or go to mosque because we've had that separation. And I think it gets very, very dangerous. Forget for a second about the ideology it's teaching, which in and of itself is questionable. I mean, obviously, nobody is teaching. I hope no one is teaching sex ed to kids who are in third grade. But think about what happens in a school like this if somebody has a single mother and doesn't have a dad, and somebody's teaching that that person is bad. What does that do in terms of that family?
Yeah.
So the level of the other messages that this is telling people is really, it's just like, it's highly problematic to actually take to do that. So you can see where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
We need to teach, the Bible is an important piece of literature. It is an important piece that could be studied historically in schools. One could actually talk about a comparative religion course and about what different religions teach. But when we're teaching the precepts of a particular religion in a public school, that feels to me like it's clearly a violation of church and state, and it's highly problematic.
Yep.
And I say this
Randi,
as a religious Jew.
Yeah, I get it. Hang on just a second.
The Thom Hartmann Program.
Randi Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers. Randi, thank you so much for dropping by.
Thank you.
And keep up the great work.